the live stream and make sure this is going through good.
I am checking, waiting/checking. There she blows.
Oh, yeah. All right. Now, a reminder to anybody that is in chat right now, while we are doing the episode, we're not watching the live stream. So you're on your own. It's the Wild West. Congratulations, a little taste of freedom just for you. Have at it, shoot each other, pew pew pew. You know what I'm saying? Like have all your little shootouts and all your fun things going on. We won't know until days, if not weeks, if not years later. So have fun with it.
If at all.
You know. Yeah, we have no clue. No clue at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah. So Joey,
Mm-hmm.
today I've gathered up a mixtape of stories for us to cover, right? And this covers NICAP. Don't ask me what the acronym stands for. I don't remember.
Okay.
Along with MUFON and Project Blue Book, along with Humanoid Encounters, which I don't know if people can see right here. This is my collection of the Humanoid Encounters series. I have the full series right here. The author did an
Mm-hmm.
absolutely fantastic job, and I can't tell you how much the um the series has inspired Black Cat Report of just me sitting down here on the couch, grabbing a random book, flipping through until I find something that kind of piques my interest and diving in. It's one of the best case books, right, or
Yeah.
reference series
Mm-hmm.
that I've ever come across. Um, Albert S. Rosales, he spent decades, like literally decades, documenting every humanoid encounter he could find, literally back to the year 1 AD.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this dude is dedicated as fuck, and I'm talking like tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of humanoid encounters across history and across the planet. Um, Dude does great
One
work.
after
I do
dessert
want to give
too.
him.
Mhm.
What's that?
It's one after dessert. That's what it stands for.
One after dessert. That's right. Um, but he does- dude does fantastic work. He does absolutely fantastic work. So that's what if anybody's seeing this here, that's what that entire collection is.
Guild.
It's just like this 16 or 18 part series of just like humanoid encounters, and it's like 5, 6, 7 paragraphs of different events throughout history.
Don't lie to them, Gil. Those are fake book covers. Those are all your different styles and languages of 50 Shades of Grey collection that you have, actually. Um,
Look,
you
thanks
you don't have
to
to
your
just
support
lie to them.
as Patreon members, I'll slowly be able to afford these actual books over a period of time.
In each language.
Each language, English and
Mm-hmm.
bad English.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the only two languages that exist now. But
Mm-hmm. Correct.
with all that said, let's hop into this damn show. Now,
Let's do it.
hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 115 of the Black Cat Report. My name is Gil, and joining me here today is the only man who ever ran for mayor of Culpeper while also being technically registered as the mayor of Culpeper while facing an indictment as the mayor of Culpeper, Joey Lee, which I need to add here, the last remaining the last remaining member of the Bruce Lee family. Joey, how are you doing today, bud?
You know, it's really sad when Bruce Lee died. And then his
Yeah,
son
Grandpa
actually
Lee.
died too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which is so sad. It's like a snake bitten family, kind of sad. But
That is very
honestly,
poetic.
as mayor of Culpeper,
Yeah.
if you guys don't get this joke about all the
Contested.
Culpeper jokes, no, alleged. Um, I'm from Culpeper, Virginia, this small town that's in Virginia. It's like pretty much straight south of DC, about an hour and a half. And when I grew up, in the 90s, it didn't have a Walmart. It was super small. It's like very rural, lots of cows,
It's another level
lots
of
of
rural
farms.
is like didn't have a Walmart. That's
It's
like a whole like whoa, like
yeah,
people know
that's a
what you
less
mean.
than
Yeah.
rural. Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
why how I always explain the
That's just
town.
rural.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's rural. Not it's not rural. It's
Rural.
rural. You know, yeah,
Rural.
you lose the oral. You know, the all part of it. Um, but they actually don't have a Build-A-Bear. So when I had to go to Build-A-Bear last week, I was in Fredericksburg, Virginia, which is about 45 minutes away. Um, and luckily I got kicked out of that one. So I can go to the one in Asheville, so it's much better.
I'm always
But
concerned when somebody starts a story with, luckily I got kicked out of that one.
yeah, well, we're not going to go any farther
Just
to the other ones that I've gotten kicked out of, but
that's for episode 116 and 17. Y'all will find out.
yeah, you got to keep waiting.
Well, Joey Bear, if I
Mhm.
if I could be so bold as to say that, um,
Mhm.
today, in line with us kind of getting back on track with things, kind of like getting our foot back into the races. I don't know if that's a metaphor, but I just made it one, so deal with it. Um,
Mhm.
what I did was I went through the series of humanoid collections, right? Or the humanoid encounters, the collection of humanoid encounters, along with NICAP, which is a UFO reporting center, along with MUFON, another UFO reporting center, Project Blue Book. How are you still listening to the show if you don't know what Project Blue Book is? And just a series of different case case reports, case studies, and I kind of like cherry picked, right? Much like Jane Roberts going through religions last week, I just kind of cherry picked the ones that I really wanted to, that really stood out to me, and I grabbed about 6 or 7 stories that, admittedly, I've come across in the past, and I've kept bookmarked, but truth is, no matter how much I looked into them, I couldn't find shit. I couldn't find shit besides these original cases. So they've just kind of sat on the back burner as like, man, I'd really love to cover them. I think these are fascinating. They're interesting. They're unique. They're what have you. Um,
Mhm.
but we've never, they've never had enough substance to kind of merit their own full on deep dive episode the way that we tend to. And
Mhm.
last week, you kind of got your feet wet with editing. This week, I'm going to be getting my feet, wet with editing. And so I was like, all right,
Mhm.
grab a bunch of cases, gonna throw them into the mix. We're gonna go through, gonna read them, and it'll be my way to get back into editing before we release a series, which we had been working on at this point well over a month ago. And
Mhm.
actually start getting back into that, which requires like a shit ton of production and editing and research and work. I
Mhm.
don't know, my eyebrows off?
No, your head.
What do I
Brain work.
what's
Brain. A lot of
Yes,
brain work.
yes,
A lot of
yes.
brain
Okay,
work.
okay.
Yes.
I don't know if
And
my eyebrow was
brain
falling
work.
off again. Again.
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Yeah. Next time, don't
Yeah.
light them on fire. It's kind of.
You know what? I don't tell you what to do.
Oh
All right.
my. Yeah.
So
This is We are anarchist. We are anarchist podcast. So
you said it.
we're
I
not.
got it on tape.
Hmm. One or two of us, but 50-50.
All right. Itty bitty. I like how you have competing posters, which I want to point out. I did have this bitch behind
I
me
saw that a
over
minute
here,
ago.
custom printed, and I love that it's competing against your "I Want to Believe" poster because
Hmm. Oh, my stuff is falling.
we were there
And
while Joey and I were literally sitting on the front porch of the apocalypse, and we were just like, and like everything was fucked up in the world. It was all doom and gloom. The little mail lady just pulled up to my mailbox and shoved this poster in, and we were like, how the fuck is the mail service running right now? Somebody talked shit about the postal service, and they're like, hey, that's fucked up too. And I'm like, you have no idea how awesome those people are. Oh my god. In the middle of
hmm
the world being ruined, the only service still operating was the US Postal Service. I'm about to go on a rant like Joey and a number of episodes. But the point is, that was a real
I will
fucking thing.
say, have you seen the movie The Postman with Kevin Costner? I think I went on this
A,
rant a while ago.
a good 15 or 20 times. It was one of my parents' favorite movies. I said that the last time too.
And it's my dad's favorite movie. I literally was up in Virginia 2 weeks ago and he was watching The Postman. I was like watching with him. I was like, I still remember how bad this movie is. They apparently get into a
It's
fight
terrible.
in like a Civil War like reenactment with another
Yeah.
people, the basically the postmasters versus like the Confederacy. And I was like, what is going on? And the Confederacy's led by I don't remember that guy. I don't remember who it was, but he was in like Falling Skies. He was like the second in command guy, and I don't remember his name. If you've seen Falling Skies, cool show.
Oh
Got a
yeah.
Joey recommendation for that.
It's a Joey wreck right there.
Hmm.
All right. So this one, this one here, just gonna be coming in, gonna be going through, gonna be reading the stories. Starting off. First one, 1950. Dr. Boda Entres flying saucer. Depiction of inside alien space. Why does it space? There's some typos, but I'm gonna get around them. Depiction of inside alien spaceship. It's not the dark web if it ain't dark. And the part of the dark web that is dark, where it gets its name, is grammar. Many reports of UFO encounters made by single individuals are often given little weight by most investigators. However, when that one person is of high esteem and credibility, the case is given much weight, such as the case with alien encounter that occurred 1950 in South America. The lone witness, Dr. Enrique Carentuno Bota, who passed his incredible story to Horatio Gonzalez Z in Caracas at a UFO conference in 1955. Dr. Bota would soon give permission to Horatio G to relate the story to famed UFO researcher Leon Stringfield. The researcher would release the details of the Bota encounter in his book, Situation Red. At the time of the encounter, Dr. Bota was a man of 40 years old. He was well educated and respected by all who knew him. He was an ex war pilot and aeronautical engineer. He was employed as an architectural engineer working with a well known company in Caracas in 1950. His job had placed him in Argentina, working on a large construction project when he would be involved in the most bizarre event of his life. Bota was driving down the highway about 75 miles from his hotel in an isolated area at sorry, in an isolated area known as Bahia Blanca when he saw a metallic disc-shaped object sitting on the grass just off the road. He stopped his car to watch the object for a few minutes to see what would happen. After seeing no sign of movement, he decided to get even closer to the unknown object. His vantage point allowed him to see an opening or doorway in the object's side. He decided to go inside. At first, the craft's inside seemed empty, except for a blinking red light in a domed top. As he ventured further inside, he saw a curved divan with four seats. Three of these seats were occupied with small beings about 4 feet tall with gray, tight fitting overalls. This, the three small creatures were facing a control panel. It consisted of lights, gauges, and meters of different types. Standing quietly behind them, Bota could not resist the urge to touch one of the small beings. As he did, he felt a rigid. Sorry. Sorry. um, as he did, he felt a rigid, charred texture. The three strange creatures were dead. All within a moment, he rushed from the saucer, got into his car, and was speeding down the highway. Arriving at his hotel, he related his strange experience to two of his closest friends. A group of men armed themselves with weapons and decided to return to the scene of Bota's encounter. However, being almost dark and the area being so isolated, they changed their minds and opted for the next morning to do their search. In other words, they got scared and fucking left.
Hmm.
Early the next day, Bota led the three directly to the spot of the previous day's unusual encounter, but there was no craft there now. Yeah. All that was found at the site, the object, I'm sorry, all that was found at the site the object had occupied was a pile of ashes. One of the men scooped some up. Immediately, his hand turned purple and remained that way for several days. The three men, discouraged by the absence of the object, began to look around the area to see if any other evidence of its landing could be found. One of the men looked up and saw three objects in the sky. One of the largest of the three was cigar shaped, while the two smaller objects were disc shaped. Dr. Bota hurriedly took 5 pictures of the objects, of which only 2 showed vague images of the objects. Soon, the 2 smaller objects joined the cigar shaped flying object. The three became one, turned blood red, and quickly disappeared from view. Dr. Bota would later relate more details of his observations on the day of the incident. He'd recall that he saw vents or the holes in the floor of the object. The control plant the control panel had a transparent sphere above it which rotated. The rigidness of the alien skin was an indication to him that they had been sorry. Words. The control panel had a transparent sphere above it which rotated. The rigidness of the alien skin was an indication to him that they had died in a crash or malfunction. He also was amazed at the skin of the saucer, which was metallic in appearance but had a rubbery feel to it. Immediately after the encounter, Dr. Bota came down with a fever, and his skin was blistered was blistered. Doctors were unable to discover the origin of either ailment. The symptoms lasted for several weeks. He also had an impression of the sunglasses he wore into the craft on his face. Literally, the worst tan lines ever. A test showed no sign. A test showed no sign of radiation. Bota kept the details of his strange encounter private, except for his 2 companions, Horatio Gonzalez G. and Leon Stringfield. Although the details of the strange happenings in Argentina seem most improbable, the character and reputation of Bota make this case extremely difficult to discount. The person who collected this story, who we're going to be quoting from a lot, has a name Joey and I are going to love. Their name, BJ Booth. Source, Leon Stringfield, Situation
That's
Red,
kind of
page
goofy.
80. Now, there's
Is he related to Glory Hole?
Yes, 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 yes. Ran by Robert F. Butts. But
Hey, you know,
oh, poor Robert. No,
I've got a lot of thoughts about that story.
continue.
Please
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Jump into it. No, 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 no,
All
no,
right.
no, no.
Well,
I'm sipping first. You go ahead.
have you ever noticed, and this is kind of something I noticed, the more we talk about stories from UFOs and people's experiences and experiencers, there's always three aliens.
Holy
Brooklyn
shit, you're
Bridge.
fucking right. You are
Brooklyn
fucking
Bridge
right.
was three. This one was three. Trinity was three. It's like, I mean, it's a Trinity, right? Which is a crazy thing I've started noticing on all these. It's like there's always three aliens. And I was like, is that thinking into this? Is that what it takes to drive these UFOs? Is that just a good number? You know, like is the
Hmm.
Trinity just a good number, as you can even say from the name of
Yeah.
the the nuclear bomb testing site and from the UFO experience at that point? It's kind of interesting.
No, I there was a lot of ways I thought you'd go with that, and as is tradition, you took it in a way that I did not expect. That's
Hmm.
a damn good point. I never I never would have thought of that. That's you're right. I don't know of a single case, and this includes a lot of cases that I've read about and I've just never told you about. I mean, that I
Hmm.
do this shit as a hobby too. Like I just dig into this shit. This, this is my you guys are just hearing an expression of my mind in my free time when it comes to aliens
Normal
and
life.
episodes, right? Like, yeah, I'm like, that's just what I do normally. Um, you're fucking right.
Quazga, same
I
thing. He had two companions.
no, he had 3 or 4. It's always I would the one caveat I would throw onto yours, onto your observation here, which is very astute, it's very solid, is, it's at least 3. Bare
Hmm.
minimum 3, right? There'll be more sometimes, and then it gets into variations of the tall whites, the tall grays, the short,
Hmm.
tall gray whites, like, it's always like it expands at some point. Um, but no, you are 100% right. It's always it's a minimum of 1, but I've never seen
Yeah.
2. It's
Well, I
like it
guess
goes
they're
from
trying to.
1
Yeah.
to 3 and up. Like that's it, you know?
I guess these aliens are not trying to practice solo girl summer. They're really trying to do some like cuffing season fall, winter cuffing
Yeah.
season stuff like that. So these aliens are really like, I don't know, it is more fun
Tough girl
sometimes to
comer.
travel with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, to travel with other
Yeah.
people. And so maybe the aliens are just like, "Hey, bruh, want to go to Earth? Let's
Yeah.
go check up on these Earthlings and see what they're doing." But
I can see that. I can see that. I know from like road trips I've been on, it's always like there's that one person who refuses outright to let other people um drive the car, which is fine. It's their car, it's their insurance, it's their thing. Joey, you
that's
and I
me.
have never been on a road trip like that together in that
Yeah.
particular situation. So like I'm not this is not a knock on you. This is I would, look, like when
Well, I'm calling it out.
I
It
don't
is a knock on myself. It's fine.
yeah, okay, I'm just saying, like, I don't sneak diss, I will just say it, Um, but, um but yeah, so, there's the person who's like, "I won't let anybody else drive. I can go for 47 hours straight. Don't worry, you guys." And then you kind of like you always have to have that one passenger that's, like, awake for the driver who
Hmm.
should not be still driving, like, legally, they are impaired with, like, sleep deprivation at that point.
Hmm.
Um, and 3 is a good number for that. You can trade off in shifts, between
Yep.
gas stations, right?
Way
Um,
stations. Yep.
this makes sense. Yeah, this
Hmm.
this tracks. This makes sense. Um, there's also and a lot of these early stories. Let me check the year real quick. This is 1955. Okay, so this is an important distinction, right? For the UFO lovers. out there, right? Who are
Mhm.
tracking the trends of UFO history as something where it's like they actually legitimately care about it, and they're like there's a legitimate history to it, and it's something we we should harness, care about, and believe,
Mhm.
and like dedicate time to. Um,
UFOs are for
it's
lovers for sure.
well, yeah, just like Ohio, everybody knows that.
Mhm.
Which
Also for
I got a lot of
predators, but
Ohio
as well.
love in this series, by the way. There's a lot of Ohio
Mhm.
cases coming up because there's one thing that I know for certain, which is all strange roads lead to Ohio or come from Ohio. It's hard to tell sometimes, but the point is, Ohio's at one of the
That's
ends
their
of the
state
spectrum.
motto.
Just like Ohio, it's somewhere on the spectrum.
That's also their state motto.
but but no, they mentioned cigar shaped craft, right?
Mm.
And a lot of the early like 1947 onwards, like kind of like flying saucers, right? It was all
Mhm.
UFOs, right? It was there we go. It's all that kind of shit.
That
When
thing.
in
Yeah.
actuality, a lot of the actual UFO, this is a fake photo, by the way. The whole like I want to believe I already, well, now thanks to me, the I already believe poster, which
Mhm.
isn't available for anybody. Go fucking figure out how to custom print it yourself. I'll send you the file if you want. Um, but
Definitely print most of our
we're so
personalities.
bad with merch. We're so bad with
Yeah, I know,
merch.
right?
Print it yourself. No, but no, a lot of the early UFO cases, especially where the term flying saucer came from, right, with Kenneth Arnold
Mhm.
and the sighting over Mount Rainier, yada yada yada, all that bullshit. Um, it was flying saucers, which was a misnomer. It was not saying that the crafts looked like plates upside down, that they looked like
Mhm.
saucers. In actuality, the earliest and continuous description of UFOs, right, is actually cigars. They look like
Mhm.
propane tanks moving through the fucking sky. They look like the big ass fucking propane tanks you see on the side of houses out in the country, right? That's what they look like. They don't look like this, which I'm
Yeah.
gonna knock down at some point during the recording of all of this.
Yeah.
They don't look like that. So it's always
Yeah.
a hallmark to me when I go back to these old cases and they're like, ah, and it's like it's 1955. This is less than 10 years after UFOs and flying saucers and all that shit kind of like hit the media and became a thing. And they were like, no, it doesn't look anything like that. It actually looks like insert phrasing, which will continue on for the next almost 100 years. Like
Airship, like
that
we learned in our
Y
Wild West one. It's an
yeah.
airship,
Yeah.
is what they used to say.
Yeah, but that's the phrasing that, like, sticks with me where I'm just kind of like, "Mm," like, I'm gonna pay attention to this case, not because I believe it, but because the very foundation was, it was an argument against the expectations at the time, they didn't back down from
Mhm.
it, they held to their guns, and in the end, it has proven true, which I'm not gonna say means that it's true, but I will 100 fucking percent say it increases the likelihood, like 100%,
Mhm.
where it's just like, well, later on, they're like, "No, that's what it was," and it's like, actually, that's the best of modern day science and radar and, like, all this shit is
Yeah.
saying, actually, they're right. You know?
Yeah.
60, 70, 80 years later.
I mean, it's just got to be a bunch of Winston Churchills out there being like, "That's a cigar." Obviously
Yeah.
a cigar. I'm like, why can't they just been like, you know what? It's a Milky Way bar. They had those back then, I think, right?
Riding that Milky Way.
It's a microphone. I don't know. Like there's a million ways you can go with this. Just like when one of our who was the reader or who was one of our listeners that said it was a Dorito?
Ah, it was, Dragon Paw. Dragon Paw.
Dragon Paw. And I was like,
Love you,
genius.
brother.
It
Yeah.
does look like a freaking Dorito. And hence, Gil got sent a billion different Doritos, which is awesome. They are so good.
Yes, I'm very grateful for the folks who sent me hurricane relief in the form of a lot of things, but the folks who sent me a 40 pack of Doritos. Like, this wasn't like a single pack
A
of
big bag.
Doritos.
Yeah.
This was 40 individual bags of Doritos, and when I got the
Small
box, I
bags.
was like, I thought that it was like a respirator so I could deal with black mold growing in my house and cleaning fluid and all this other shit. And I pull up my knife, I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, all right, what do we got in the mail today? And then it was 40 fucking bags of Doritos, and I was like, Jesus titty fucking Christ, I don't eat this many chips. I don't know what to do with this. So half of those chips are now at Joey's house for his pleasure.
They
Um,
were. They were. They
I have
are in.
You ate them?
I still have some left.
I'm worried about your gut. All right, brother. Um,
Hey, when you
that's
drink, you need some extra food.
well, our next story.
And I mean, the way that they actually came up with the saucer, calling it the saucer, is there's a bunch of guys in New York, and they were just cooking.
Sass. Yeah.
Yeah, they were cooking pasta, and they were cooking it, and they were like, this lady came up, and she was like, these noodles, they're oh so dry. They're very very dry. I need something on top of them. And the guy looked back, and he was like, saucer, and just threw sauce on
Salissa.
there, and then saucer, and that's
You
how.
go ahead, you sauce her. I
Hmm.
like that. I like that. I can see
Yeah.
that coming. I can see. I
And the
can see
sauce went
that.
flying. They threw the sauce on it, and there's like
It
flying
was
saucer.
literally a
And
flying saucer. Yeah,
conveniently, there was
convenient.
a UFO, an unidentified flying object, behind them as they were saying that, and then that there was a camera going, and that's how they got flying
I'm
saucer.
going to choose to remember things that way.
Cool. Me too. That's how my brain works.
Good deal.
Hmm. Oh, that road trip was bad? No, it was mediocre. It was pretty mid. It was pretty mid.
Come on, you little turd sandwich. Okay. It's really awkward. I have a whole situation where I can like hold my script in front of me and I can read it and I can yada yada bing bang boom. I can't really do that right now. At some point, I might take like a wide angle view of where I'm sitting, and y'all be like, "That's really fucking awkward," and then I'll be like,
Hmm.
"Yeah, camaraderie, what's good?" Um, Anyways, speaking about awkward seats, our next story is at Seat Pleasant, Maryland. You like that transition there? I don't.
Hmm.
August 1952, UFO with occupant. UFO depiction. Sometime in August 1952, during the major UFO sighting wave of that year, Mrs. Suzanne E. Knight, a young housewife and mother, saw a UFO at close range with what appeared to be an occupant aboard. At about 9:30 p.m. on that hot summer evening, Mrs. Knight was in her kitchen when she heard a peculiar in quotes noise apparently against the screen of the kitchen window. The noise was repeated several times, and, thinking it was a large insect, she went to the window and looked out. She saw a bright object descending rapidly at 45-degree angle and thought it was a plane about to crash. Instead, the object came to a hovering position at a right angle to her, approximately half a city block away and about 300 feet above the ground. The UFO appeared to Mrs. Knight to resemble the wingless fuselage of a plane and was dull silver in color. Something similar to smoke was coming from the rear. They've said that about me on a few Saturday nights, if you ask me. Oh, no, I don't.
Hmm.
Anyways,
After you had a bunch of
the
refi
side
jeans.
after all them Doritos. Um,
Mhm.
the side of the object was facing Mrs. Knight. Okay. The side of the object facing Mrs. Knight was lined with a number of square windows. Eh. The side of the object facing Mrs. Knight was lined with a number of square windows through which a brilliant yellow light was shining. On top and to the front of the object, to her left, was a small red light extended somewhat above the body. On the other, you guys are catching this wrong, all right? Sometimes I fuck up reading. You try reading out loud, it'll fuck you up.
Mhm.
Anyways, and if it doesn't, you should start a podcast. And if it does, you should start a podcast.
Mhm. Well, Gil's raw dogging the script right now, so it's all good.
Nobody needs this to be a GIF, but it will be.
Gifts for days. Gil's gifts.
Joey's
Just
Joey's
start
just
a
like,
gift
welcome
store.
to my world.
Mhm.
On the underside on the underside of the UFO was an undercarriage similar to the gondola of a dirigible. See, that's why I fucked up that sentence so much. This also contained a row of smaller square windows and aglow. Was brilliantly aglow inside with yellow light. Mrs. Knight thought she observed what appeared to be rows of seats, similar to theater seats, in this low portion. Has anybody, well, I don't know why I'm asking like this. If anybody has ridden the ferry, the Staten Island ferry, right? And you know that there are seats along the sides of the Staten Island ferry where you can just like sit, you can watch the Statue of Liberty and Hudson Bay and yada yada yada. You know what I'm saying? You could just like cruise along in the harbor in New York. And the seats aren't facing front towards where the pilot's facing or the captain of the ship, but they're facing outwards, and you can either watch the skyline of the city or you can watch the Statue of Liberty. That's basically what she's experiencing with the UFO. She's just like,
Mhm.
"Oh my lord, devil, how ba ba ba," and then it's just like, "Wah, wah, 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 wah," and it's just like a shit ton of tourists just being like, "Oh, chick, 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 ah, chick, chick, chick." That's what she's watching right now. Well,
Hmm.
through the upper windows, she was able to see what appeared to be a row of cabinets with slanted tops. Basically, she had a really good view in these windows.
Mhm.
Quote, "There was a man in front," end quote. Mrs. Knight wrote in her report to NICAP, quote, "Looking straight ahead towards the front, to her left, I couldn't understand what he was looking at so intensely, and not moving either. I expected to see a lot of instruments or dials, etc., similar to instrument panels on airplanes, but there were none that I could see." End quote. She said that the bright yellow glow in the object made everything inside look yellow. Quote, "Even the man." End quote. This occupant wore a kind of helmet and, quote, "Around his arm and the side of his helmet, next to his face, there seemed to be a shadow or dark line, kind of looking like a Bob Dylan profile, if you ask me." I made up that last part, end quote. Eyewitness drawing after which eyewitness drawing after watching for a minute or so. Mrs. Knight left the oh, I'm reading the subtext on the image that didn't get copied into what I
Mhm.
printed.
Perfect.
Professionals.
Mhm. Partial. Well, first off, I did want to say, uh, I don't know if you
Please.
were keep if you got a little bit left in the story. Go ahead. Never mind. I'll say it after. Go ahead. It's not pertinent
Cool.
at the moment.
It's always pertinent.
Mhm.
After watching for a minute or so, Mrs. Knight left the window to phone the newspaper, but she was unable to get an answer. When she returned to the window, the object was still there, but the man had disappeared and the undercarriage was no longer visible. Quote, I thought maybe it had moved up into the fuselage because not even the outline of the car was visible, but it should have been because the street light would have shown it. End quote. At that point, the light in the objects, sorry, at that point, the lights in the object were abruptly extinguished and the UFO turned from a dull silver color to a glowing red. Quote, like the door of an old pot-bellied stove. End quote. Every every female character on this show is
Sounds
Linda
like Betty.
Belcher. If you don't know by
Yeah, yeah,
now,
true.
yeah.
Well, you're just doing
Which
a
Betty
effective
Betty
Northeastern
Andreessen,
accent.
yeah, Betty Andreessen is Linda Belcher in my mind. Oh,
Correct. Yes.
Bobby. Yeah.
Oh, Bobby.
Oh my god. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and you know what? Fuck it, I love it. It also began to rock toward and away from the witness and gave the appearance of being, quote, wavy, like water running over a rock or like heat waves coming out of an electric toaster, end quote. That is an incredibly specific observation.
Mm-hmm.
She then began calling for someone else in the house to come and see the object, but while she was looking for her sister, the object departed. Altogether, the incident had lasted approximately 3 minutes, at least 2 minutes of which Mrs. Knight had the object in clear view. The witness told her sister of what she had seen, omitting the detail about the occupant. Brackets. She was certain her sister would disbelieve her. End brackets. The sister displayed disinterest and a certain degree of skepticism. Lame.
Mm-hmm.
So Mrs. Knight ceased to talk of it. She forgot the incident until a number of years later when she told her husband and children. The report came to the attention of NICAP, and Mrs. Knight made out a full report in September 1967 following this. She has been interviewed further by a member of the Capital Area NICAP subcommittee. Mrs. Knight held a responsible job in Prince George County. This was brought to you by NICAP.org, along with UFOcasebook.com/seat pleasant 1952.html. What
Mm.
were you going to say, Julie?
Well, I just want to make a few points to this too, and I'm glad that you
Please.
brought the story up, and the her candor and her descriptions of the ship and the occupant were interesting. First off, Miss Knight, I do want to say that jaundice is not a joke. His yellowish tone on his skin is not his fault. Okay, the occupant's fault. He or she, whatever the occupant was. And so I know that sometimes that just happens, and you got to deal with it, and it's a life thing. But also, why were you looking at the undercarriage? Like, come on, like eyes up here, okay? Eyes up.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm
I
worried
know the
about
light
Mr.
was
Knight.
I know the light was shining on it, but still, that's not always what you go first for. Um, I wonder what Mr. Knight was doing at this point.
We all do.
It was just Mr. Knight in the freaking ship. He was the one flying. Hmm.
I There's
But still,
aspects that I
it's a,
appreciate.
it, yeah.
Go ahead.
She did a good job about uh the measurements, because she used the old American terminology where she never used kilometers, and she said it's about a
Hell
half a
no.
city block away. It's about 300 feet
Mm-hmm.
up. And she's like, "Well, I'm gonna use anything. It's 2 washing machines long, um, 4,000 cheeseburgers, at the Pythagorean theorem, uh, away from
Yes.
me." So she's doing that
Yeah.
as well. She just, but she did a great job in decrying, I guess, in a way of like, here's
Mm.
where the details changed, here's what was happening, here's what was moving, where the light was changing, that the occupant was there, the occupant wasn't there. And did she say there was cabinets in the spaceship?
She specifically, spe- specifically, specifically, she saw cabinets in the spaceship with slanted tops on them. Not just cabinets, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
She outlined the design structure of the cabinets.
Hmm. She must have an eagle eye, or she's like, to be, because it was 300, it was a half a city block away, right? So
Mhm.
I'm trying to think about how big this
Some
thing
big
needs to be.
cabinets.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
you to look through and see the cabinets in there while she's staring
Mhm.
at this thing's undercarriage. And maybe she was, I don't know, like, this is very interesting to a detail in this UFO case, honestly. Um I can see why people were just like, yeah, it may be a little weird that you saw this by yourself and no one else saw this, but I mean, you can't ever count out people's experiences for the most part, because it's hard to know what people see in certain situations, as we know what we've been through in the last month. So it's like, it's hard to you can't discount people's experiences for the most part. And from her,
Yeah.
seems like she's doesn't seem like she's been described as crazy in the last few
Mm-mm.
years, or it's never been proved that she's been in an insane asylum, or she's been, whatever.
It's
But
never been proved that she was in an insane asylum.
I
As
choose
far
my
as I
words
know, it
carefully.
hasn't.
I
Mrs.
I
No,
choose my
you
words
did. You
carefully.
did. And I quote my words specifically. But
Mhm. Quote.
but how whoa, ha.
Mhm.
Um no, but you're 100% right. Yeah, I appreciate your take on that. I Something stands out. The description of the fuselage, which we have to take things into terms. So in the to throw it back almost 100 years at this fucking point, because we old. Um, in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, folks did know what the fuck they were talking about when they were saying fuselage,
Mhm.
because either they themselves or their partners, right? So their husbands or wives, worked in what would later be called the Air Force.
Mhm.
So, like that terminology, when goddamn near half the fucking country was recruited, right? Like, or drafted into the military, fuselage was a household term. Now it's kind of like,
Mhm.
God, that is oddly specific. Like that seems really weird when I hear it now, but I have to take it into context of how many folks back then, their husband was sitting there staring at a fucking airplane, who was like working in the Navy or working in the Air Force, or sorry, in
Or
the
in the Air
Army
Force.
Air Force before it was the Air
Mhm.
Force. And they were like, that's a fuselage. Like, and they were pointing at, like, people knew what the fuck that was. So that wasn't a weird description.
Yeah.
Now, a fuselage looks like a large cigar, looks like a large propane tank. It's a
Mhm.
very long and oblong object,
Mhm.
right? And so it's a very specific shape to say something looks like. It's like, yeah, it looks like a giant propane tank. That's basically what they're saying,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
Um, she said that, but she also said something that like kind of tipped me off into like giving her more credit, even though she's always Linda Belcher in my head. It was her sister downplayed it, and she decided to shut the fuck
Mhm.
up.
Yeah.
That, I don't know. People could always tiptoe past like kind of like hearing some shit and then later on being like, fuck it, I'm gonna try this scam once again, and they could yada yada yada. It's 100% a thing. I'm not dismissing that,
Hmm.
but it's interesting. Around this time period, there are a lot of sightings that come up all around the world of people claiming, saying and claiming that they were able to see into the craft. That they were
Hmm.
able to see things like cabinets. She's not the only one. This shit was happening on a regular basis. This is way before the internet. I would be shocked if she had any clue that people in South Africa or Australia or in
Yeah.
parts of Europe were also saying that they were able to see within craft and see things like cabinets at the same time.
Hmm.
I don't know if they're alien. Might be some crazy government shit. Maybe the government was able to make a UFO and still not get past the technology of cabinets. I don't know. But
Pretty
but this
universal
was a
cabinets are
fucking
though.
thing at the time. Are they?
I would say so.
Are
It's
they?
literally something that you have that closes, that has shells, that
Yeah,
opens, is used to hold things. So I guess
I
just
don't know.
the idea is universal. It could
My
look
poor,
complete. I mean,
sweet, simple Joey. I
I don't know. I like the idea of cabinets, and I was thinking about it as like when were cabinets invented? They had to be invented in like
don't
180
want to
or
live in a
something.
world without cabinets.
I mean, they're the people that are doing the open concept are definitely trying to make us live in a world without concept without cabinets. They're like nothing's a cabinet, but everything's a cabinet.
Really, if you think about it, aren't we all cabinets?
Yeah, it reminds me of it seems like we're in a Rick and Morty episode where we all just turned into cabinets in a different realm.
All right, Rick. What we gotta do is we gotta go. Wait, Morty. Shit. All right, Morty. What we're gonna need to do.
You already ruined it, Gil.
I did,
It's
but
okay.
when we edit
It's
it,
okay.
it'll sound like a great impression. People will be like, "Oh my
It'll sound
god,
like a
he
great impression and
nailed
a
it!
great joke. Yeah.
Fucking
It'll be your it'll be
fantastic!
your next
Goddamn,
yeah,
wowza!"
it'll be his next meme. It'll be his next gif. Yeah. We're just
Gilf.
making gifts for you all night. That's actually what this episode is for. It's not for the content. It's just for the GIF content, I guess. Not for the audio
It's a
content.
Gil I would like to fuck. Anyways, so
Mhm.
pew, pew, pew.
Mhm.
Joey, hold it down for one
Mhm.
second. Be right
Okay.
back.
Am I gonna have a Joey minute?
Joey, I'll be right back.
Okay. He is going to see this. Everybody, this is what you get in the Joey minute. Apparently Gil has a bladder, and he has to go to the bathroom always. And it's not a 4 or 5 hour episode. So, welcome to the Joey Minute. And I especially want to thank you all for listening and kind of joining in on this little like retrospective slash future spective slash present spective into our lives because this is kind of what we do normally, especially when we hang out. It's just in stupid, dumb jokes. And Gil says, "Hey, you should hear this story about this UFO story that I know, or you should hear this UFO researcher, anything like that." And I'm like, "Cool, Gil. Hey, guess what? There's this crazy historical person that's freaking amazing, or did this random stuff, or is so funny, and that the story is beyond belief." And then we just, like, wait till you hear the story. I can't wait because we don't like to tell each other for the most part what the episode topic is about. So one of us, whoever's not doing the episode, doesn't really know what the topic's about for the most part. We kind of have some ideas sometimes on the subjects, and we kind of pre-plan this monthly. So this is kind of part of it while we're doing it to actually be the other person that just listens to the story and gets to be the audience in it. And hopefully, and probably not, this is my mind and how I work, some of the jokes or some of the things that I ask you guys are thinking about. um and while we're recording, I am, if I'm not reading the script and I'm not the one doing the episode, I kind of do try to keep track of the chat even live so that we can keep it going. Some of that might be edited out in the episode, but I do like to see what you guys are talking about. And if you guys have any questions, you could ask them on here and I could ask them to Gil so he could answer, or vice versa, depending on what happens. So um, I am trying to be a little bit more open to that. So, and if you have a joke and it's a pun or anything like that, please put it down when you hear it. Because if it's a joke I haven't thought of, then shame on me. Okay, shame on me for sure. If I can be the king of puns, I think that would be my superpower. You know, could you pun somebody to death? You could. It's like how many licks to the get to the center of a Tootsie Pop, you know? It would be a lot. And oh yeah, Rachel, I am not doing shots tonight. That was Parapalooza in about what I'd say 3 hours into the 5 hour podcast. I was already laying on the bed, spinning and wasted. So that was part of my life that night. I actually didn't feel super bad the next morning, which was kind of amazing. So that was really rough. But I'm alive. We're all alive. We're here listening. So, and that was the Joey minute and a half, probably.
Damn good. Damn good. Well, our next story is
Mm-hmm.
called the Loch Ravine Dam Incident in 1958. Oh, you don't say. Look, don't math me on this, but I know this is an anniversary. On October 26th, look
That's
me up,
today.
Joey. You gotta.
That's
That's
today.
today.
That's today. That's today. That's today. Sorry, I had to look at my computer to make sure it was October 26th, in fact.
Yeah. I was like, I looked at it and I was like, wait a second, this date seems familiar. Um, yeah. So on some anniversary of today, minus 4 years. Um, I think yeah, it's an anniversary.
Yes.
On October 26th, 1958 at 10:30 p.m.
An hour from now. A little less than an hour from now.
mm, near the Loch Ravine Dam, north of Baltimore, Maryland. I said that just to confuse you. Two
Yeah,
men were
traveling
traveling in a
both.
car. As they approached the bridge, which probably doesn't exist after the tragic Baltimore bridge collapse earlier this year, they saw what appeared
R.I.P.
to be a flattened out egg shaped object hovering approximately 100 to 150 feet above the top of the bridge. Slowing their vehicle to get a better look, they approached about 75 foot from the bridge. Suddenly, the car went completely dead. The two men stated it was like they just cut the key off. Nothing electrical worked. The driver attempted to restart the engine, but to no avail. The object and the malfunction of their vehicle frightened the men to the point that they had hid behind the car. It's going to be really bad for you to get out of your car and go hide behind it.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to I mean, ah, shit! And they just like open up the doors, close the doors because they're proper gentlemen, and then ran and hid behind the car.
Because
I
that'll do
laugh, but
something.
this shit's terrifying.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
They were able to closely watch the UFO for 30 to 45 seconds. All at once, the object flashed a white light, causing the two witnesses to feel heat on their faces. The flash was accompanied by a loud sound like thunder. The UFO now began to slowly raise straight up. It was extremely bright as it did, causing the edge of the object to be fuzzy. Within 5 to 10 seconds, the object was out of sight. Men were then able to restart the car and rush to the nearest phone to report their sighting. The Ground Observer Corps was contacted first, but did not respond. The men then talked to the Townsend Police Department, which sent 2 patrolmen to the scene. The two men soon the 2 men soon began to experience a burning sensation on their skin and went to St. Joseph's Hospital in Baltimore for treatment. They were examined and each man returned to his home. Follow-up investigation would reveal some more details of the incident. The bridge was double arched, about 40 foot tall and 500 feet long. The distance from the witnesses to the object was estimated at about 3/4 of a mile. Also, there was no unusual atmospheric conditions at the time, and the skies were clear. Project Blue Book investigated the case, but found no absolute cause for the appearance of the object. The case remains unidentified, although the Air Force did state that the object constituted no security threat to the United States. The two witnesses would subsequently be identified as Philip Small and Alvin Cohen, written by B.J. Booth. Source and references Project Blue Book. Over and over and over again, like sunburns in the middle of the fucking night. More or less, if you really had to simplify it down, I mean, it could be radiation, could be an unknown form of radiation, any number of things, but like sunburns in the middle of the night, um,
Yeah.
company UFO observations. Like the amount of times that people are like, I was wearing a hat, or I was wearing a beanie, or I was wearing earmuffs, or whatever. And it's just like people get like straight up like burned. Like, like when you see somebody who like, I don't know, wears some clothes or something to the beach and it's like really obvious what they were wearing, like the shape of their thong or the shape of their boxers or like whatever the fuck it happens to be. It's like, oh my God, I can see your tan lines. Like I literally know what you were wearing based off of how bad you were burnt. It is that, but it's like at nighttime. Right, and, like, that's what these folks experience. That's what, Linda Belcher in the last Mrs. Knight in the last story, like, also experienced, where it's like they straight up experience, like, burns on their face, which something else, and I stand by this, um, one of the I don't know what the fuck it is. Don't ask me any questions. I don't have any fucking answers. Your Google's as good as mine. But one of the
Mm.
givens for a close encounter experience is pink eye.
Mm-hmm.
It's popped up over and over and over again. Folks that have close encounters with UFOs and they get these radiation burns and shit like that almost every fucking time
Yeah.
develop pink eye. I don't
You
know
know,
why.
they're getting pink eye as much as their lives are getting shit on just for saying that they've seen a UFO, which is very sad, honestly.
Yeah,
Um,
that
Gil,
tracks.
I'm not trying to deviate us, but I just wanted to throw in a little
Please
commercial
deviate
here.
us.
Um,
Uh-huh.
I feel like I've been doing that all night, and I've been not being able to keep on topic. But I wanted to. You're talking about sunburns. You're talking about people being at night, and
Mhm.
but for other people, they get sunburned during the day, and you have a lot of people have pools, like LA area, Asheville area,
A
a
lot of
lot of
people
big
have
areas, they have
pools.
pools.
Yeah.
They have pools. I am
Mhm.
starting a new company, and it's called Tuxedo
Okay.
Speedo. And men will come out in your pool, and people that I know,
Okay.
and they will be wearing tuxedo speedos to clean out your pool. There'll be different packages where they can clean your pool. And what they do for you, you get the VIP package. They'll bring you like champagne. They'll clean the pool while you're out there. They'll give you
Yeah.
shade and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And there's like small packages where you can do like they just basically come clean your pool, basically the basic package.
Pool
And
boys,
this
if you
was
will.
pool, yeah, pool boys. But I just wanted to just throw that out. There was a new company I was thinking about, Tuxedo Speedo, and they will clean your
Tuxedo
pools for you.
Speedo.
So just, yep,
Yeah.
in a Speedo. So
Yeah.
thank you, Gil, for letting me throw my business hat on for a minute. Um,
Any goddamn time. Their slogan, I want to bulge.
yes, yes. And also our slogan is we'll clean your pools. It's straight and basic and easy. Yep. Yep. I'll just make it
Straight,
cool. Uh,
basic, easy.
easy. That's also part of the package. The biggest thing I want to say about this story, to hop back on the track, is I appreciate that they didn't say cigar shaped. They went out of left field and said it was an elongated egg instead of saying. I love that that's how they described it. And I'm like, thank you. Everyone else
Yes.
says cigar shape. It's an elongated egg.
Star.
That guy who saw it was sitting at home, and he's just
I
quit
don't want
smoking
my
cigars.
grandma to know I've smoked tobacco.
Yep. Yep. He just quit smoking
Yeah.
cigars too. And he's thinking about this long, nice cigar that he can just
Mhm.
smoke. And then they come and is like, what
Mhm.
was it shaped? And then he goes through this whole mind, his mind thought, as I'll say, like handbook, his mind thought,
Ah,
um,
yes.
a big mind thought. And he just went there and just saw himself smoking a cigar. And then he woke up, and his like wife or friend or husband, whoever was significant other, was
Mhm.
cooking him eggs, and he was like,
Yeah.
elongated egg. And yeah. Excuse my coughing.
Fucking love it. Now,
Mm-hmm.
next, Joey.
Mm-hmm.
Is going to
Who
be
cares? Yeah. Good. I'm deviating too
is
much.
going to be what's that?
I'm deviating us too much.
No, 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 no. You're fine. I'm just in this constant battle with my microphone and my pop filter.
You and Mike Tyson.
Whip my ass. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Fostoria, Ohio, late October 1977. Probably another anniversary today. Close encounter with a train. Twice a day, the C&O Railroad sent a trainload of 35 to 40 empty boxcars north out of Columbus, Ohio, to pick up processed food at the Fostoria Distribution Company warehouse, 3 to 3.5 miles north of Fostoria, Ohio. By the way, this is one of the only recorded cases. There's like three of UFOs and trains, so enjoy.
Mm.
The warehouse is located on the north side of Jones Road and east of three main line tracks. US Route 23 is located over 200 yards to the west and, sorry, located over 200 yards to the west of and parallel to the tracks. A church sits on the east side of Route 23. In order for the train to move the boxcar load into the warehouse, the front part of the train must operate from the easternmost main line track. In addition to the engineer in the train cab, a conductor is needed to work alongside the cars to uncouple the empties and couple up the full cars for the return trip to Columbus. A brakeman works at the end of the train inside the warehouse. All communicate by walkie talkie type radios. This night, possibly the 21st of October, the engineer, who we shall call Howard J. Albert, was sitting in his locomotive cab on the main line track. It was cold and clear. Several boxcars had been cut loose and were parked to the south of the switch track to the warehouse. The engine was coupled up to the rest of the cars, which were being moved into position within the warehouse. At about 3:20 a.m., Howard saw what looked to be a shooting star to the west. It curved down out of the northwest. He was sitting in his cab facing southbound. The first boxcar blocked his view in this direction. Light came down in the field toward Route 23 between him and the church. Slowly, at about the speed of a walking man, it came toward him across the field. It was approximately 16 feet off the ground and stopped on the other side of the tracks between 4 and 5 boxcar lengths away, 180 to 270 feet. Howard picked up his radio and called out to his conductor, who was about 7 or 8 car lengths down the track. Quote, Donald, come up to the engine. Donald replied by radio and asked what was happening. Howard answered, Hey, we got a g- UFO up here. This time, the UFO had moved to within 2 car lengths of the track. The object was, quote, birthday cake, or disc shaped, about 90 feet in diameter and about 45 feet high. It was brightly lit with banks of 9 vertical, quote, tubes separated by a dark void space. Separated by a dark void space that reflected no light. Short horizontal tubes ran over the top and bottom of these voids. The bottom of the disc could be seen. It appeared like ceramic and was, quote, the color of a common kind of knife sharpening stone, gray with a trace of lavender, end quote. No windows, ladders, antennas, or markings of any sort were observed. There was no sound associated with the disc. The disc was slightly tilted and rotating counterclockwise. Both Howard and Donald used their railroad stopwatches twice to time the speed of rotation. The speed was 9 rotations per minute, 9 RPM. They cannot say what was used as a reference point for the timing, but are sure their estimate was accurate. The object glowed yellow. Electric like energy arcs ran around the disk in a clockwise direction. They were blue in color. As the arc touched the tubes lit up. In the center of the tubes were touched, the ends lit up. When the ends of the tubes were touched by the arcs, the centers lit up. At one point, the tower operator in Fostoria, hearing radio conversation between the 3 men, called and asked, Hey, Howard, you got a UFO out there? Howard replied, Yes, yes, Merv, we got a UFO up here. He's damn close. Merv then asked, Do you want the cops to come up there? The reply was, "No, they they can't drive up to where we're at, and if they do get here, they'll probably shoot at it. It isn't hurting anybody. We're playing games with it."
Mm-mm.
Howard turned on his train cab headlight for a 2 count and then turned it off. The object lit up very bright for a similar period of time, then dimmed down. Howard turned his light up twice and then turned it off again. The object reacted in kind and then dimmed down. Testing his engine, a General Motors Model 3900, he increased the output to 1500 amps. The 100 worked. The object did not respond. The walkie talkies worked, as did the base radio on the train. After about 22 minutes, the object started spinning faster and faster and got as bright as it had earlier when it had responded to Howard's headlight signals. Suddenly, without a sound, it took off up into the northwest until it looked like a yellow star. That is how they last saw it when they returned to work.
Hmm.
When the object was close across the tracks, something told them that they should stay on the train and not cross the tracks. They also seemed to know that if they blew the train whistle, the object would leave. Howard thought that the object's occupants were observing their engine, a relatively uncommon model, and in turn were allowing them to observe their craft. The conductor heard the radio description of the object, but only got up to the engine in time to see the yellow star like object high in the northwest sky. UFOcasebook.com, 2009 / 1977, trainohio.html.
Hmm. Interesting. It is. It's very interesting what each person that has an experience notices about the craft that they're looking at, right? And how it changes
Mm,
with who's looking at it. Because, and not that they all have to describe the same things, describe the idea behind it, but how the lady that was looking in noticed that there was cabinets, and that was one of the first thing that she noticed, because if she was looking outside of her home, most more than likely looking through her window or whatever she was looking, there's cabinets around here, right? And she kind of can associate what's going on with her to the cabinets around her. And then these guys who are train
yeah.
conductors, speaking in terms of they're 2 boxcars away, they're 3 boxcars away, talking about what was it, the voltage, right? The voltage coming from
Yeah.
the UFO. And then how she described it was uh egg shaped, and or she didn't describe egg shaped, she described cigar, right? The UFO,
Yeah.
the first lady, and then the second was egg shaped, and these guys were describing it as birthday cake, right? Um, birthday round cake.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Which I didn't until they said that I didn't know birthday cake was a shape.
I didn't know it was always round if I accompany that, but it was the conductor's birthday, and he was pretty pissed off that everyone forgot of his birthday. That's his little
Yeah.
subtle reminder of that it was like his birthday. But it's
It
just
was
interesting how the
birthday shaped.
birthday cake shaped Arnold. But I did see it. It's
Yeah.
just funny what each of them notices and how
Yeah.
they compare it to each other. And I wonder if that also, if we talk about, when what's his name came to Congress recently. What's his name? I can't why we even talked about him a lot. Starts with a G.
Ooh,
Testified to
gee,
Congress. His name G, right?
Grush,
Where Gresham?
Grush,
David Gresh. David Grush. Yeah. Thank you.
David
It does start
Grush.
with a G.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
he came to Congress and he talked about, he didn't necessarily say they were aliens. He said they were not of this earth, right? Not of this earth,
Yeah,
which was very
yeah.
specific way to say it.
Non-human biologics. Yeah.
Non-human biologics. So making it, the idea behind it is how everybody sees these in kind of different patterns, and some people see them as the same thing. If we remember the Tilton UFO accident, I pretty much remember that all those guys came up and they started flashing the lights. Remember on their cars trying to talk to them too. All that memory going, huh? And they started flashing their cars too. Gil's super happy. He's like a proud teacher at this moment because I'm remembering every almost every UFO moment that we go
I
through.
saw this
Um,
I saw the spark in your eyes when the flashing took place and you were like,
yeah,
"Tilton?" I'm like, I Joey and I, you and I are close enough at this point. Like I literally read your eyes and you were like, "Tilton?" And I was like, "Yes. Yes, my
yeah.
child."
Because they were playing with it too, and it
Yeah,
reacted the same way. But I don't think that they
100%.
ever did the honking horns either. I don't remember if they did it during that one.
I don't
I
remember.
I don't think so. Um, but yeah, I do agree that it is funny because they tried to start it up. They started on like turned on the engine, kind of like a whoop whoop, like they do for a kid, and
Mm.
truckers would or like train
What
conductors
year was
would.
that?
And it kind of did this. I feel like Tilton was like 78.
It was 74. I just looked up Tilton UFO incident. Um, we are still literally the number one result because nobody's covered that goddamn case. I'm
Yep.
so mad because it's so fucking. Yeah, we are literally like across the board. Even my question on Reddit about removing static from police dispatcher radio recordings is my number one result.
Good.
We're the only ones that got it. I feel good about that. I'm happy with
We
that.
have the exclusive
Sorry.
scoop. No, we have the
Yeah,
exclusive
nobody's
scoop of
taken
it.
fucking time to actually look into that incredible fucking shit where it's like, now you, now me,
Yeah.
now you, now me. He's like, just oh god damn it, the line. I always wanted to see a UFO. Like, god
It's in our
damn it,
intro.
dude.
It's in our
Like,
intro. It had to be because it's so good.
ugh. Somebody's sitting
Hmm.
there looking at a fucking UFO. Looking at a UFO. Like 50 years later, you are looking back and you're seeing them say that you know for a fact when they're saying they always wanted to see UFO. They're staring at a UFO. Like, I always wanted to
Hmm.
see a UFO. And they're looking at one and they're playing Morse code with it. Anyways,
Hmm.
sorry. Go for it, bro. Go for it, my brother.
No, I just thought it was crazy. The difference, excuse me, the difference between how people see things and how
Yeah.
their eyes perceive them, and like maybe
Yeah.
in some, when I was bringing in David Grush, I was thinking and talking about, I always talk about it as like interdimensional beings and things like that, because if they're interdimensional, they could be changing the way that we perceive them, or not even purposefully changing the way that we perceive them. We just perceive it the way it is because it's how we can understand it best. And when people describe it, and I guess you could also take that as they're describing it in terms that they understand, and that the train locomotives and conductors understand, the lady, the housewife, and mother, uh, she's explaining it in things she can understand. And maybe if somebody else saw that and was like, no, those aren't cabinets, those are, I don't know, lockers or something, like it can, terminology can change in some ways. So it's always people talking in things that they can experience. So I think it is sometimes hard to be like, no, that's not true. I don't think you saw that, because a lot of people, depending on how they, how they bring it to you, some people try to go for fame just by seeing something. But coming back to it, it's like, how is it? If you've seen a UFO, which me and Gil saw, the Brown Mountain Lights, and sometimes even now we're both like, Gil brought it up the last time we talked about it and was like, did we even see that? Did we see that? And sometimes it's hard to like rationalize the things that you can see and the things that you have seen, you know?
Yeah,
Um, it makes it very interesting. So,
I like that. I like that a lot. Um,
hmm
do got, and I want to say for the Ohio folks out there, at least one more Ohio story because Ohio's for uh, Loveland swamp monsters, apparently. Um, but
oh yeah, Loveland, Ohio
yes,
monster. Yep.
Ohio's all strange roads lead to Ohio
hmm
or away from it, but it connects back to Ohio.
Yeah, it's
But
just a circle road. They
no,
call them roundabouts, Ohio.
no, to connect to what you were saying though, it makes sense. One of the best things that I heard very early on when it comes to witness descriptions and UFOs and sightings and all that is the more folks disagree with what they saw, the more folks don't have the same story, the more likely it is to be legitimate. It's very concerning when 16, 20, 30 people all say the exact same thing.
Yeah.
That's like, did you all rehearse this? Because I don't know about you, but if you've ever sat together with a group of friends, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people, and try to explain the same situation, every single person in that group is explaining and emphasizing a different part of that exact same experience. It's
hmm
actually really sketchy when everybody says the same thing.
Yeah.
But if everybody explains it, oh, well, the wood grain was like the, oh, their shoes were like the, oh, their hats were like this. How do you not remember the hats? Like
Yeah.
that actually is more of a hallmark for something being legitimate than the exact same case. If everybody's saying the same shit, it's like y'all sound fucking brainwashed or like you're intentionally making some shit up.
Yeah.
So
You practiced it.
I don't know. Yeah,
Mm,
with you on that.
Yeah.
Well, next up, my brother. This is coming from God damn it, you can't read the font on that. They didn't always
Yeah.
pick the best font, but the book is good. Humanoid Encounters, The Others Among Us, 1980 to 1984 by Albert S. Rosales. Who I desperately want to get on the show. I've talked to him a little bit. This is like over a year ago. I think I'm gonna try to get him on. The guy does good work, and y'all should know by now. I respect a good researcher. God damn it, I
You
respect a
do.
good researcher.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
You do.
Or my friends, pulling from page 163, 164, 165 of said book, starting off with Pat Norris, 28, had visited a friend in Mobile when his friend's husband arrived from work. Mrs. Norris left the headed home on Highway 90. She had turned off the highway and when about 90 minutes ride from her home, she heard an explosion. At this point, her car began to vibrate and continued to do so, making it difficult for her to steer. She negotiated another turn off the road she was on, brought the car to a halt, opened the door, and leaned out and down and looked to ascertain if the transmission could have been causing the trouble. It had not. Mrs. Norris continued driving and the vibrating stopped. She executed another turn onto another road and saw the woods were illuminated. At first, she thought that there was a helicopter At first, she thought there was a helicopter search in progress because of the lights and was very frightened. She again stopped the car and at this point sighted a huge object about a half mile west of her. She now feels the explosion she had heard earlier was the object coming down over the clay and gravel pit in the vicinity. The thing was huge, later estimated to be 7 to 8 stories. That's 70 to 80 feet
Mm-hmm.
high and, quote, 6 telephone poles, which is 210 feet wide.
Another
Americans
incident.
refute.
Yeah,
American.
yeah. Any form of
when
measurement.
it- when shit hits the fan, we measure it by how far shit sprayed. We refuse to use
Mm-hmm.
distance of poop. We will literally be like, the average poop is about, but depending on what you eat, 6 inches to 2.5 feet. So it's about 12 poops long. And you're like, what does that mean? What is that?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are we talking about metric
Ah,
poop or are we
God.
talking about imperial poop?
Imperial, obviously.
Obviously. That freedom poop.
Obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Freedom poops.
McDonald's
Um,
and
so,
Burger King.
oh my God. Um,
There's some Subway
the
in there.
thing was huge, later estimated to be 7 to 8 stories, 70 to 80 feet high, and, quote, 6 telephone poles, 210 feet wide, and appeared to be moving towards her at 4 to 5 miles per hour. The evening had been clear and cool, and she had driven with the car windows closed. After the explosion, she noted, quote, a chopping wind, a high pitched sound, and a roaring sound, as well as a vibration. She particularly noted the, quote, whipping of the wind like a tornado. When the object reached a point fairly close, it stopped, and all of the noise stopped. It was completely silent, and Mrs. Norris lost all of the fear she had felt before. She then got out of the car to get a better look. She strained to take in every detail, feeling like a child with, quote, unbelievable happiness. She estimated the time duration of the sighting as 5 minutes. As the craft appeared, Mrs. Norris As the craft appeared, Mrs. Norris's attention was drawn to a top deck with a long window, which she estimated was 55 feet in length, and through which she viewed 20 to 30 persons, apparently oblivious of her presence, walking about as if they were changing shifts. They didn't give a fuck about her. The wall behind them was curved and white. There were no instruments. The people did not give the appearance of looking out. The beings were pale skinned, dressed in white one piece suits. She judged them to be about our height, 5 feet 10. Sorry. She judged them to be about our height, 5 feet 10. Quite slender, eh, but with chests larger than ours, the top of the head more prominent, no hair, and having only the lower half of the ears. I don't know what that means.
Mm.
She noted nothing out of the ordinary with the eyes. What did draw her attention was the great grace of their movements. The atmosphere seemed, quote, sterile. Below this top deck window was an opaque window. The area around it was all white. This window was in sections and was inset. The glass was tinted. Below the center of the craft, a door was closing from right to left, and she looked onto a street that was dark as if made of asphalt or possible concrete. Off to the side of the street was a tubular, rectangular equipment. All across the craft, she saw rivets and portholes. She said she could see the portholes, quote, inside out, end quote, as she peered into the craft. She saw some construction that included, quote, huge I beams, like they put ships together with and beams holding the glass in there, end quote. The bottom side was tiered upwards. The construction reminded her of a ship or submarine. She said it seemed possible, very likely, it could have been constructed on Earth! Exclamation point. The very bottom of the craft was formed into a cross made with 1 foot square mirrors and an observation deck hung down and around the bottom with beings in it. In this case, unlike the top deck, the people were peering out. While overhead, she heard a very low pitch but clearly audible, almost like a growl, announcing, coming from the area of the observation deck now closer to her. Mrs. Norris said she believes they didn't realize she was there until directly over her position. She saw 4 pipes projecting 6 to 8 feet out from the craft set in 3 or 4 foot square boxes. They had a hollow flange on the end, like a tank cannon, and she believes, quote, it looked like a weapon, like the craft took a suddenly turn as it went on from where she was parked. She said, was staying in the wooded area and did not cross Highway 90 again. Possible that was doubling back towards Irvington and Pascagoula. It it lit up the wooded area and all beneath it as it moved on and off. It had white spotlights and to the side blue and red lights that intermingled, pointing up to the clouds and then down to Earth. HC Addendum. Source Bob Gribble, Phenomenon Research Hotline, and Ed O. Brown, APRO.
That's crazy.
I don't know what the fuck to make of that. But it's around the same time period that we've been covering everything else. So
The again, it's interesting to try. It would be a fun game or interesting game, I guess, to try to guess people's occupation by how they describe a UFO. Because the way she described it, she sounded like she was either like a shipbuilder or in some kind of services. Because of the way she described the like the naval deck, the deck on the ship, and then instead of like the way that she could tell by the way that like it turned the UFO turned, that it became more menacing and that it kind of took more of an attacking maneuver instead of being like at a passive maneuver. So it seems very interesting just to go by that on how they describe the UFO.
yeah, it's there's a certain set of cases from the late 50s to the 70s and 80s where it feels like they're describing very, very human technology,
Hmm.
right? And like when you look into UFO research, honestly, I'm gonna go out on a ledge. If you look into human um if you look into witness testimony before the internet,
Hmm.
right? So I'm gonna say before the late 1990s. Not saying it was common in the late 1990s, just saying that's when the water starts to get cloudy, right? So if you look at any human testimony, any witness testimony before the 90s, and you start trying to pick things apart, after the late 90s, early 2000s, it gets really sketchy because you don't know what bulletin board they might have been on, right? What uh 30 days free AOL like transcript, 30
Yeah.
days free AOL kind of like disc came in the mail and they were on a bulletin
MSN.
board, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And there's two main directions that kind of like pop up. Um there's the rivets and windows
Mhm.
view that kind of comes up. And then there's the Betty and Barney Hill kind of shit that pops up. There's the
Yeah.
Betty Andreessen type of shit that pops up. Aliens had a type
Abduction.
and their name
Yeah.
started with a Betty, apparently. So
Yep.
so there was some really crazy shit where like the odds of folks meeting each other, knowing each other, having any relation all across the board of like knowing what they were into, what they claimed, what they saw, crazy shit doors that just
Yeah.
just like the most basic of shit. It wasn't a trope, it wasn't a stereotype, it wasn't a thing back then. And then there was rivets, windows, cabinets.
Mm.
Um I forget the name, Project 1695, 1795. I don't remember. I've mentioned it on the show before. I probably have it saved as a PDF on my phone. There was an active project by the United States Air Force. I have the document. You can go to the Air Force's website. You can find this as a PDF where the Air Force has a projected view of a UFO with the United States Air Force like printed on the fucking UFO because like this was they were actively trying to build UFOs at that time.
Mhm. Yeah.
Some of these stories kind of remind me of that. This lady's stories reminds me of this, similar to can we get 400 egg McMuffins in this fucking wicker basket in the
Yeah. The
in the Wild
mild
West?
west. Yeah. The
In the
wild years of the
Mild
Mild West
West.
episodes. Yeah. If you haven't listened to it, listen to that episode too.
A lot of love with that. A lot of love with that episode.
Mhm. Interesting episode. But I hear you on that because it's like the prototypes of UFOs, and especially when I was researching in that too, is like there are prototypes in the generation of it, and like
Yeah.
uh, the words change for sure because it felt like the first early words
Here it is.
were. Go ahead, you can go ahead and finish it.
No, please continue.
Or airship, you know
Yeah.
the earliest words that I found were airship, and then I guess when flying saucer got coined, that became the preferred term, and now we use UAPs are pretty much it, for unidentified aerial phenomena, because it's just the way it's changed in the way that they want to describe how they see things but not get too close to what they think.
I'm gonna go pee. You continue.
Hmm.
Salem is getting all up in my shit. Then I
Hmm.
found the document. It's 1794 is the name of the program. I found the original document, which when I came across it on the CIA's website, I was like, save, download, keep a copy of this bitch. And I'm gonna
Yeah.
screen share this. So if you're watching this on YouTube, right? If you are a member of our Patreon, any of the platforms where you would see the visual version of us, I'm so sorry you're seeing that. But any of the platforms where you would see the visual version of us, you'll see me screen sharing the document here in just a moment.
Hmm.
Joey, take it away, brother.
Okay. This is Joey Minute part 2. So as Gil has the bladder of a Honda Civic, we will say that I will be taking over for another minute. So again, I just want to say thank you all for listening. For you guys that are on YouTube listening to us, um, we appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate you guys watching. I'm sorry that you're watching, and happy that you're watching because you get to see our faces, I guess. And you get to see all the pauses and the things that if you don't listen to us, you don't get to see. If you don't like watch us on YouTube, you don't get to see. Apparently, I am supposed to play some intermission music. I don't have my guitar around me, so I can't play any intermission music. Paranorm Girl podcast, uh, awesome person. So thank you for listening to us, Paranormal Girl podcast. Paranormal Girl podcast. Um, I guess Gil's gonna. I'm running out of material. Okay, like this whole episode, I've been trying to be funny. Yeah. Okay. So I was gonna say earlier, right? I am not a funny person. I try to be funny sometimes, but I feel like tonight I've been on the point of I'm having a bad night. Like when a stand up has a bad night, and you're just like, they had, kind of a bad night. Like when I watched Pearl Jam play live, they had a bad night, and they said it on the mic. And so I feel like I would be doing a disservice if I didn't say that I was having a bad night comedically. Um, it was been a long week and I worked a lot this week already because we kind of, things are starting to get nowhere close to normal, but going back to work trying to pretend it is. So that's why, hence, I'm drinking King of the Mountain from Beautiful Brewery. I'm gonna just change this into Beers, Booze, and Boogeymen. I'm drinking King of the Mountain by Boozum Brewery.
Welcome, Paranorm
Um,
Girl.
welcome, Chris, Paranorm Girl. Almost said.
Kristen. Their name's Kristen.
I know, but I wasn't gonna say it.
Okay.
I've been like
Why?
meandering around saying her name, so because can't
You're
not on the show right now, and she's in the
you're
Jesus Gil.
weird. What? What did I do? Oh my god. All right.
Anyway,
So
go ahead, Gil.
I'm just
Share
gonna
your
share my whole fucking screen. You're welcome. Now, this is a scan, and this is taken from the United States' Air Force. The United States is Air Force's website for their declassified documents. And this is Project 1974. Kids, reading is important. You should always read through your government's documents, especially when they're giving fresh releases on declassified documents and they're giving really vague names like Untitled 339X472X or whatever the fuck they're giving. Just download and look at it because if you do that, you'll start to see things like this. Yada, yada, yada. Yada. Do you notice this little
this.
logo for Project
This is just infinity,
1974?
Gil. Gil, this is just the infinity screen. You need to change the screen.
You can't see it? Oh man, I
No,
made
we're
that
seeing.
whole announcement.
Yeah,
Oh
we just see the
god.
screen. We just see the infinity screen.
Oh oh god. Well, I'm back here again. Here we go. All right, let me give
Yeah,
my whole spiel again. God damn.
yeah, just literally re-explain it.
All right. So
There,
can you
there it
see
is.
this
Okay,
now?
you got it. I can see it now. We
Okay.
can see it now.
This is
Can you
why
zoom
you
in?
should look at shit. I'm going to speed through this. Now, Project 1974 or sorry, 1794, weird fucking name. Final development summary report 2nd of April through 30th of May 1956. These years are very important here when we look at it in relation to UFO sightings and things like that, right? This look at that leather bound, right? This is coming from the Air Force's website. Security warning, yada yada. We don't care about state secrets. Come on, we live here. Now, if you look at this little logo, This is really interesting that this keeps popping up on every fucking page, right? Now, do you
Mhm.
remember what I said earlier about a cigar-shaped craft and how the stereotype became flying saucers, right?
Mhm.
That looks like a flying saucer, right? On every fucking page. Every page of this official. Ah, what are we building here?
It's a pie.
Yeah, this is the official breakdown. This is the Air Force's project. This is the engines. This you can go find this. Go look up 1794. Go to the .gov website yourself. I've already found it. I got it. I found the good copy. It's all here. They tell you. They give you the whole engine breakdown. It's here. Look at engine installation figure number 6.
Mhm.
Bro, what?
Gil
This
is
is
trying to
how the
tell you that the
craft
government is creating UFOs.
well, a portion of it. There's a long process or long rationale behind that, but like this is the air movement about how it operates, right? These
Mhm.
J hooks at the bottom. That's how the lift operates. This is a
You
bunch
can
of
tell it's true
science. I
because
don't
the
know.
world's the ground is flat, just like the Earth.
Exactly. Dude, literally go look up 1794. I don't mean to sound like a conspiracy theorist. I'm just trying to quote .gov websites. All right,
Mhm.
that's literally all I'm trying to quote here. Is this is like, here's photos of them during the subsonic model, the 1/6 scale model. They were testing it.
Interesting.
It's all available. Like, look at. Does that now sound like some descriptions we've heard in the past? The windows
Mhm. Yep. It
with
does.
all the bullshit. Yada yada yada. I've read this. It's great. It's fantastic. You should check it out. Seriously though, if you don't have a life, you should seriously read it. If you do, why are you even listening this far? Um, it just keeps going. It gets into the aerodynamics, the engine mechanics, all of it's here. You can go to the Air Force's website, afs.gov, or sorry, afs.mil.gov, and you can find all of it. Um, it'll tell you how to make your own UFO. It's all there.
Hmm.
So this is my discretion when we come down to things like uh, people at this time period saying things like cigar versus folks that are saying things like saucer, UFO, things of
Mhm.
that nature. That's where I start to get a little bit like you're calling it a what? Okay, I'm gonna pay attention to you.
Yeah.
Because like at this time, so like that was test documents, that was shit that they were trying to build up in the 50s, which means definitely by the 60s they probably had working models in some variation. So
Mhm.
the reports that are coming from like that was all like, hey, this is early testing. It's just been declassified 50, 60, 70 years later,
Yeah.
right? um Cigar shit has never been declassified. That's never come out. We've never had anything that comes close to anything like that. And it's something that even to this day, folks like Rush, who you mentioned earlier, and David Fravor
Mhm.
have said cigar shaped objects, right? So
Mhm.
it's always kind of been like, I think those are the legit ones, and I think the saucers are the ones that we're trying to mimic. That's my take on it.
Mm, that's a good thought.
No.
I mean, I don't. So when you talk about the name 1794 project or whatever, that
Yeah,
year was also famous for the Whiskey Rebellion in the United States.
that makes sense.
uh,
Not really.
I
What are you connecting
also
here?
I also had a Whiskey Rebellion on Parapalooza.
I've seen it. Yes. Many
the
a people
whiskey
have seen this. Yeah.
the whiskey rebelled against me on Parapalooza afterwards,
Yeah.
but that's what I was connecting it to. Uh,
Rebellion of whiskey, some might say.
Hmm. Which kind of worked that it
Now,
was the same date.
it's fantastic. Now,
Hmm.
we've got one more story.
Oh,
My
one
lovely,
one last one.
incredible
Hmm.
fucking audience. One last story. If you will bear with us. I think everybody is left, and that's okay because we're
No,
here for
they haven't
ourselves.
left.
Hi,
They
Joey.
haven't left.
No,
They
they've all
not
left.
everyone's left. Not everyone's left.
Joey, they've all
Some are
left.
right.
Some are ambidextrous. Now,
Hmm.
Joey, you've got a choice to make. You could take one of two stories. You can take Monroe Falls, Ohio, or you can take Florida Scoutmaster.
Florida Scoutmaster.
God damn it! I knew you would do that.
Of
Sorry,
course.
Ohio.
Well, we've been
I'm
in
just kidding.
Ohio
You're
for
used to
two
hearing
stories.
sorry.
Yeah, we've been in Ohio for two stories. Let's go to Florida.
Half this show is always in Ohio because
Let's get the
sadly,
let's get
Ohio won't give up. My heart is in Ohio. It won't give it up. It is being held hostage. Somebody help.
let's go to the Ohio of the South, okay? Florida.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. August 19th, 1952. DS quote Sonny de Vergas arriving at police headquarters. The officer noticed that Vergas' hands, arms, and face were messed up. Basically, the ink got fucked up there, but that's what the summary was. A heat wave from a flying saucer, a sci-fi movie scenario? Well, not really. The following account still stands as one of the best quote physical trace cases in UFO lore. The United States Air Force certainly took it seriously, and so should we. Scoutmaster D.S. Sonny de Vergas of West Palm Beach, Florida, was driving three scouts home on the night in question. Sorry, was driving three scouts home on the night in question. He turned off the coastal highway and down an inland backtop to go where one of the boys lived. After traveling about 10 miles inland, he noticed a bright light in the palmetto thickets. At first, he passed by it, but then stopped down the road and turned the car around to go back. He hesitated in doing this, but could not help feeling that the light might have been a fire, perhaps indicating a crashed airplane. De Vergas stopped the car and got out to proceed to the scene of the bright lights. The scouts objected, afraid to be alone in the darkness, but the scoutmaster headed towards the thick brush not far from the road. Nearby, the swamps full of snakes, alligators, and who knows what other deadly creatures. About 50 yards or so from the road, De Vergas disappeared to the waist high thicket. As he did, the first thing he noticed was a terrible odor. Using his machete to clear, sorry, using his machete to clear the way with one hand, his other held a flashlight to show the way through the darkness. He carried a second flashlight on his person. The boys, waiting in the car, could clearly see the beam their scoutmaster's flashlight made through the brush. Knowing he was being tracked by his flashlight, he shined it up into the canopy of some of the trees as he proceeded towards the unknown source of the lights that had caused him to stop on the road. As he reached an opening in the brush, he paused momentarily to signal back to the waiting boys. As he did, he was suddenly overcome by an intensely humid heat. He glanced up into the clear night sky to get his bearings, but To his surprise, many stars he had seen only a few moments ago were gone directly above him. Something else was blocking his view. It took a moment for his eyes to adjust to a large, oval object which was hovering about 30 feet above him. As he slowly moved away from the frightening sight, he shined his flashlight toward the object. He could now make out the concave bottom of a smooth, round craft with a dome on top. He continued to slowly move back from the object until he heard a sound which froze him in his tracks. The sound he heard was a large metal door closing. He now found himself surrounded by red mist. He then lost consciousness. The three boys, Bobby Ruffing, Chuck Stevens, and David Rowan, could see their role model surrounded by what they could best describe as a big red ball of fire. Frightened, they left the car and ran as fast as they could down the road to a house. Finding a farmer, they told him what they had seen. The farmer quickly called the state police, who soon arrived at the scene. Deputy Sheriff Mott Parton picked the boys up and drove back to the car. As they arrived, they saw De Vergas racing from the wooded area. Parton said that De Vergas was more scared than anyone he had ever seen. The other officers who accompanied Parton ran into the area vacated by the frightened scoutmaster, finding one of his flashlights still burning. They also noticed that the grass was flattened near the flashlight. The master's second flashlight would never be found. DS Sonny Vergas arriving at the police station headquarters, the officers noticed that De Vergas's hands, arms, face, and cap were all burned, although the officers were doubtful of the red mist account. We believe the rest of the Scoutmaster's account enough to call the Air Force. Edward J. Ruppelt was heading the Air Force's Project Blue Book at the time. He was impressed enough to take an investigative group to Florida to question De Vegas. He was accompanied by Second Lieutenant Robert M. Olson and two captains, Hoey and Davis. Ruppelt would interview De Vergas several times and remarked that the scoutmaster remembered details very well and did not respond in a rehearsed, or sorry, and did not respond in a rehearsed manner. He felt that De Vergas was telling the truth. An Air Force surgeon did an examination on De Vergas and determined that his wounds were indicative of a mild sunburn. There were singed hairs, burns on his face and arms, and also his nostrils showed signs of being burned by a quote flash heat source end quote at the scene of the event. Revolt could find nothing to invalidate the scoutmaster's account. Although there were no apparent signs of scorched earth or grass, later it was revealed after tests in Dayton, Ohio, that the roots of the samples of grass taken at the scene were charred. Also, De Vergas's cap showed signs of being damaged by quote sparks of some kind. The three boys confirmed the cap had not been burned earlier in the day. After interviewing the three boys, Ruppelt was convinced that they too were being truthful. De Vergas's story stands today as a documented physical trace account of a UFO encounter written by BJ Booths.
Mm-hmm. The old Booth himself. Well, it seemed like the aliens were probably LA Dodger fans and he was wearing a New York Yankees caps. Current sports reference.
As somebody who doesn't understand sports pucks, I'm gonna have to say that sounds accurate.
Sounds correct.
No, my working
And he
theory
just hit
as
a
of
grand slam.
I think I just scored a puck ball.
Mm-hmm.
But no, my current working theory, and this will I hope this will change. So if you're gonna quote me saying I hope this will change. My current my current working theory is that um some of these early encounters, especially in the late 50s, early 60s, maybe into the 70s, um, particularly the ones with very intense radiation burns,
Mm-hmm.
I think those were human, more or less US government made. 100%.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Those are my like I think that they were fucking up. They were trying to run some experimental craft and they were like, "Ooh, whoa!" And they like shot over to the end of their other end of the planet, like, "Whoa!" And they like crashed in the swamp and they're like, "Oh shit. Send in, we need help." And like it wasn't that the
Send in the
government was
scouts.
so yeah, it wasn't that the government was so quick to respond and like the cleanup crews were like, we're so fucking on it. We were watching the radar 24/7. Our men were ready to go. It wasn't that they were so fucking quick. It's that they were part of the crew already. They were
Yeah.
watching the test flights already. They knew 6 hours away a horrible crash already happened and they needed to get there to help clean it up and figure out what the fuck was going on and get all of their experiments off of the scene, which is why they were constantly there. So I'm not going to give credit to the government for competence. I'm sorry. Just
That's the last thing you should ever
maybe
do.
maybe I'm crazy, but that just doesn't seem like a thing. But if it's already a government project and it's already literally on the radar, and they're already literally watching it, and they already literally have a fucking team that's ready to go respond. I believe that. I believe that they closed down highways. I believe that they did a lot of fucked up shit. I believe they told a lot of people to shut the fuck up. You didn't see anything. Like
Mm-hmm.
I 100% believe that. Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
100%. Bro, you're involved in those kind of programs, especially at that time. Bro, you could tell anybody to shut the fuck up whenever you want to. I believe
Yeah.
that 100%.
They'll disappear. Yep.
But do I think that's every event? No. No, 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 because this shit's been going on since before the US government existed.
Well, they had to learn how to make those airplanes and those UFOs from somewhere.
Well, I mean, but the simple truth is like this shit back to Ezekiel's wheel. You know what I'm saying? Like go back to the Bible, homie. Like it goes back before that. This has been a thing for so fucking long.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we finally got to a point in technology where we could recognize and have the privilege of paying attention to what we recognized. I think that that moment happened and we're like, we need to start working on that because even if we can't do it perfectly, we can freak out the governments that are keeping it secret. We
Mm-hmm.
can make them think that we're them and they'll let us do
But
whatever
better.
the fuck we want.
Yeah. But better.
Because they know how we know how afraid these other governments are of even coming open about this shit. And if we show up and they think that we're them, they're gonna let us do whatever we want. And
Mm-hmm.
like that's an in. Even if it was an in for just 1 month, it would be worth it. 1 month. You could pop up into a fucking secret place. You could just be like, "Yeah, we're fucking them," and you're like, "Oh shit, it's them! Oh no, we can't attack them!" Like, you know what I'm saying? Any government on the
Yeah.
planet be like, "Oh shit, we don't even talk about you motherfuckers," and it's like, "Yeah, we're them." They're like, "They kind of look drunk, but I'm pretty sure it's them." It's like, "Yeah, we're good."
Mhm.
like, like I don't know. This shit's been going on for a long fucking time. Have, you know, Rosalis's collection here, which I apparently am promoting throughout the evening. Let me put that book right up there. But it's a thing. It's been going on for a long fucking time. And I don't think I think we copied it. I think we mimicked it. I think we realized that we can't copy it. And I think we back the fuck off, which I think that's why a lot of these disc stories are dropping down, accounts have dropped down, and now it's come down to just cigar shaped craft. It's come down to just the gimbal videos. It's come down to just Grush and Fravor and Dietrich and all these recent cases because like it's not every single day. It is common, but it's not every single day. Um,
Or
I don't know.
maybe they
Joey,
have
where you at,
figured it
bud?
out. Or maybe they have figured it out and they're successful. And now you have less
Mm,
occurrences of being seen because they are successful in cloaking
yeah,
technologies and multi-dimensional travel, all that kind of stuff. Maybe. I'm not.
yeah.
It, the reason why it says I want to believe is because I'm
Mhm.
skeptical about stuff, but still can logic weighs into things. So that's kind of how I like to live. So it's kind of perfect that as minds I want to believe and gills I already believe. So it's a very
Yeah.
good, very good name. But I always think about it like maybe they could have been successful in some ways because technology has changed and moved so fast, but human race is not actually capable of understanding or even being okay with a government that maybe had technology that could have changed the way we live at the moment and not releasing it to the public or private sectors that could make it available and affordable for everybody. I don't think people would be okay with that besides normal human intervention or human invention of the idea. You know what I mean? Like people would be pissed if we got into like next year they were just the government or went, "Hey, we have been in possession of a energy machine that actually creates more energy than it uses, which would create unlimited energy, and we haven't let it out yet." People would be like, "Well, that is you are terrible. Like that is terrible." Right?
I yeah.
I mean, of course we'd be like, "Hell yeah, we have it. Great." But it would be like, "Fuck you government for hiding that knowing you had it all the time." They would never say that they did that. They would funnel it out through uh a what would it be, institute that they funnel money into. Hint hint, in the future of a topic we'll be doing, maybe if Gil feels up to it. um they'll be funneling patents out in the future. You should know what I'm talking about because he had planned to do it. Don't tell them the name of it.
Not saying it out loud, so they weren't the sensors won't pick up on it. Here we go.
Yeah,
Let's see if that'll can I get that on the camera?
I don't know, I
Here we
can't see
go.
it.
Wait. Right, right there. Anyways, it's a very important story that I've been
Uh,
doing a lot of research on that some of the leading oh shit, there's a lot of extra Jesus Christ, there's a lot of
Stuff's
papers in
falling
here.
out.
Yeah, no, like literally there's so much shit falling out of this.
Research.
So I don't know. This is all getting cut from the audio version of the podcast. I don't
Oh.
know if you've seen these names before, but
If you haven't, you'll hear them in a future episode or a few future episodes.
yeah, there's a few locales. There's a few locations in the world, few institutes, if you will. Again, all things lead back to Ohio. Hint, hint. Um, few locations in the world that even the most respected of UFO researchers, um, such as where is it? Wait. Some of the most respected names in the field, um, are absolutely horrified to mention out loud. And I got a suicide wish, baby. So I've dived fucking head first into that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we'll see how that goes. Anyways, Joey, you're 100% right and 100% right. So
I was gonna say I'm
now
100% right and 100% wrong.
I didn't say that,
I did. You don't have to
but
say it.
now you were 100% right. It's a it's an interesting area. I used to all I can say is, you know, you've picked up a lot of shit, but I feel like it's safe to say that you don't go around actively searching for and digging into a lot of shit.
Nope.
I don't feel like that's a disrespectful thing to say in any sense. It's like,
Nope.
yeah, of course not. You know, like that's
Honest.
not your forte, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um I do actively dig into, and you know how I am when I fucking drill into shit. Like I will just keep going and
Mm-hmm.
going and going and going, and it's like it's a problem for our friendship, my relationships, and life in general. You know, like
Yep.
I
Your
just
regular
dig and
excavator.
exactly, and um, digging in when I hit that point, 1794, and I started reading through the documents, and then I started connecting other things around that time era and comparing that to other platforms and programs around that era. I was like, oh, and a lot of the issues that were had, a lot of the problems that were had with flying saucers and UFOs, it was like, this sounds strangely human. This sounds like strangely naive. This sounds strangely like rookie. You know, like a lot of the shit sounds strangely rookie. And I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
say these cases aren't legit. I'm not going to say that they're not worth looking into, but it did label half of the UFO cases as uh, government made and
Mm-hmm.
half as legitimate. And it cut down like a small margin of events that I considered legitimate. It cut them in half, even
Mm-hmm.
farther,
That's good.
which I feel like numbers things more legitimately in my
Mm-hmm.
mind. Where it's like, yeah, there should only be a handful of legitimate events.
For
um,
sure.
that's my take. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck the moral. What Joey? What's the moral of this episode? You're
Well,
allowed to name it whatever you want to name it. I'm eating, or
all right.
I'm drinking
Also, you know,
Seagrams this evening. So literally, whatever
I
you want to
was
call it,
gonna ask
that's what it
what you're
is.
drinking because it was blue, and I think the other one was yellow, and I was like, think I don't know. I don't even want to guess to what you were drinking. So Seagrams it is. Um,
I'm
the
drinking a
moral.
hangover actively.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're gonna have a hangover with that. The moral of it is, honestly, not everything is real, and there is a 50-50 chance that it could not be real. So, as you're taking your driver's test, ask yourself, as you're walking down the street and you have just watched The Matrix in 1999, or as you're what would I say, watching us on the screen. Are they
in
real
1999.
in 1999? Is this real? You want to party like it's 1999? Is this real? Are we real? Is the story I'm reading real? Because, as we can all say from it, and as I've researched and found out, and as we talked with in a past episode, is it real? Because as we've gone into this age of internet, mainstream media, any kind of media, AI and people just putting fake stuff out there is like huge. I can freaking read a sports story, and that has nothing to do with this putting people against each other. And literally the first post is like, "Oh yeah, but did you see the other guy? He's much better." Oh yeah, and then it starts an argument. And then I look at that first person's comment and I'm like, that person has two friends and they're also robots that you can see, and I'm like, man, it's just getting posted on there just to start arguments. And I'm like, man, so definitely research into things that if you see it, if you, for me, if I see something on Facebook, if I see something on Instagram, I immediately Google it. And then I go, what is that? I look for real pictures, look for pictures coming on. And so I'm not saying the idea, because I think the idea behind do your own research is a weird thing to say. And it's like everybody shouldn't do their own research. But there are definitely fact checkers out there that do a good job. Gil is one of them. He does a trillion bits of research. Look at him over there. Look at him. That's the face of a good fact checker. Okay? Good face. And the Black Cat Report will also be a fact checker sometimes for whatever. And we will probably do it in a sarcastic tone. So hopefully you can tell the difference between sarcasm and not. Can't really tell in my voice, so I hope that you can tell in Gil's voice. Yeah, I can tell in your voice sometimes. I don't know. Sometimes.
Joey, I love you. I don't know how the fuck you wrapped things up with. I don't know if you could tell if Gil's telling Gil's voice. Yes. Um, Look, our transcripts are not reliable, and if you're just reading that in the transcript, go listen to the tone. Um, yeah, sarcasm is a higher form of humor, and we're too high to be sober. So here's the deal, y'all. We're working on something great. It was something that we were putting together from in what we like to refer to lovingly and endearingly as the before times. It's something we were already working on. We're getting back to it, but we've got a model, a platform, a plateau, if you will, to reattain, and that plateau is a very high level of research, editing, production, recording, script writing, right?
Yes.
And we're working our way back
Long
to it.
hours. Yeah.
We have a part 1 that's already been recorded. We don't want to be a fucking dick stain and just release part 1 and then 3 weeks later we'll release part 2. So we're working our way back up to it. This week
We're not James Cameron
is
and
my
Avatar,
turn.
right?
Ah, fuck that noise. No. So
Mhm.
we are working our way back up to it. I'm editing the audio this week to get my chops back up
Mhm.
for editing. Last week it was to get my chops back up for script writing. Joey, who always gets to speak specifically for himself, has had his own process in this, right?
Mhm.
He's like sometimes occasionally I can.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
uh, but he's had his own take on this. But I was leading up the two-part series. We're getting back up to it. We're gonna be coming at with you soon, or coming at you
Yeah.
with it soon. Um, till then, um, hope you enjoy these random episodes. I don't have anywhere to
Yeah.
take that, brother,
There
other
might
than
there
just
might be Yeah, there might be an episode or two in between till we get into that nice two-part series. Maybe I'll
yeah.
take an episode or two to kind of get, like we talk about, we're getting back into the mood of writing, deep diving into
Mm-hmm.
script stuff, deep diving into editing. It's been taxing on us. It's been taxing on pretty much all of Western North Carolina, Tennessee, the hurricane that hit. So we're still dealing with our emotions. We're still dealing with stuff. We're trying to, and as you guys know, sometimes we deal with really dark subject matter. And as you do, and as a good podcast or, podcast that I listen to, podcast that Gil listens to, you have to have gotta have some jokes in there. Gotta have some stuff that
Yeah.
builds you not into a dark ball of non-humanity. Uh, so we're still working our way into it. That's why last week we had Kristen. K-Booze, thank you so much for being on that and helping us get back into it. This week we did a nice, cool little easy short story format. Maybe next week will be similar. Maybe it'll be a smaller little deep dive. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. We still haven't got there yet, but we're trying to get back into the weekly episodes as Gil's Mike Tysoning. He's actually Evander Holyfielding the Mike Tyson there. Um,
And at
there's
least
my Gil.
one of your podcast hosts needs to look like Fidel Castro.
Look at him over there. Yeah, he's doing it. He's really he's going for it. Maybe next week I'll dress in a suit, so I'll look presidential, and he'll keep his Fidel Castro on going, and we'll have an all-out battle. We'll have a all-out
Only if you're
rap battle.
JFK, baby.
That's
Anyways,
true. That would make sense.
we fucking love Joey, and I want everybody this week to give extra special attention to this man who gets so uncomfortable when any attention goes to them, even though he chooses to only dream, admire, and pursue careers in gaining attention. I'm gonna give extra special
As most
attention.
people
Oh,
do.
calling
As most of those
I'm
people do.
calling out your psychology, bitch. But everybody this week, I want everybody out there to give extra special love to Joey and to tell him he's the shit. He's the best. Fucking hell. Goddamn. Veins popping out of the neck. Joey, you're the best. Love you, brother. And we'll be here next week, right?
We will.
Yeah. All right, brother. Bye.
Bye.
Got you, bitch.
I know. All right, make sure that the live stream is off before we.
I'm checking right now. Bless you.
Thank you.
Pew. And you're not gonna catch me this week, bitch. All right.